look at the Dolphins personnel, especially Jalen Ramsey, what do you see it from him and the matchup with Nico?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens as far as the matchup goes. We kind of prepare every week. What if teams decide to match? What if teams don't? And what if they do both? And how we go into the game. I know all of our guys, all of our skills are really ready for whatever winds up happening, and we'll adjust. And Jalen's a really good player. He's been a really good player for a long time. I've gone against him, it feels like 10 times now. And every time I've gone against him, he's impacted the game in like a great deal in some way, shape, or form. And I anticipate that to be no different this week. I mean, we got a lot of respect for Jalen and what he does. Really got a lot of respect for their defense. 93 and 92 are big-time defensive linemen. They do a really nice job. They got a good front seven. They got a good back end. They got safeties that are involved in the run and the pass game. I mean, they do a heck of a job, and they've been playing some really good ball lately. So we got a great challenge in front of us. And I know Nico, Tank, Dalton, Joe, and our O-line and CJ, and everyone's just excited to roll and take it, see what we can do.
The bye week is often time for you guys to kind of reflect and to kind of look back at when you did your self-evaluation of the offense. Like, what were kind of some of your biggest takeaways?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, we kind of knew this as an offense as we went, but when you really get to sit down and hone in, I mean, there was a lot of tape to watch. Like, that was a long stretch we had before we could really kind of gather ourselves and go back through that process. And I think the biggest thing that jumped out is the difference in when we execute and when we play to the standard that we know we're capable of, and when we aren't quite playing to the standard that we know we're capable of. I mean, there was particularly kind of in the middle of the season, like there was a stark difference. And no one holds us to a higher standard than ourselves here and on offense. And, we've done a great job the last 2 weeks of really honing in on that standard and putting that out there more consistently and more often, starting with practice. It showed up in practice for probably 4 weeks. Then eventually it makes its way to the games. And I think the last 2 weeks we've done a good job of that in the games, and we got to continue to do that. That's really what December football is about. It's a really big deal, making sure we're consistent in our execution and in our commitment to what we're doing.
D'Amico mentioned that maybe some of the success from the Jaguars game was about getting back to basics, maybe what you guys are best at, as well as maybe not overcomplicating things. Was that something that you noticed in maybe some of the issues from this season on offense, that maybe there was a little too much sometimes?
Yeah, I think that applies to a lot of different things, but we kind of made the decision as the Texans team a couple weeks ago that we were going to embrace what we do, and we were going to embrace that we do it really well when we do it to our standard. And Jacksonville is a good reference point, but it wasn't it didn't just start in Jacksonville. We had kind of started that multiple weeks before that, and like I said, it had been showing up in practice, and it was a matter of time. And then really Jacksonville, I think, was when everyone was comfortable letting it rip in that way, all the way across the board. Like, were we perfect? No, not by any means. But we were, without a doubt, we were more consistent in what we were doing and what we were trying to accomplish. And I think you could see that in just the conviction and the confidence we were playing with really the last couple of weeks. And that's without a doubt, that's something we want to build on and continue.
What did the look back show you about your offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, like everything, we've kind of talked about it through the course of the season. Like as individuals, we really wanted to emphasize growth, and that's every individual up front. I think you could see from really where we were in the middle of the year to where we got to the last few weeks has done that. They've grown. I think LT's playing some of the best ball that he's played since I've been around, which has been really cool to see. And we got bright spots all the way across up front, and then there's been times, in particular in the middle of the season where we know we didn't play up to our standard, and most of it was just mental stuff that's controllable, stuff we can fix. And they've all embraced doing that. And the last 2 weeks, our protection the last 2 weeks, it got a little leaky 2 weeks ago in the fourth quarter, but other than that, it's been very sound. I think against Jacksonville, the only play off the top of my head is the first play of the game. And other than that, it felt like CJ could be really, really comfortable back there in the pocket. And we've given Joe some lanes to hit in the run game. Like, I really think all of them have continued to grow and really embrace what I've already referenced as far as let's emphasize what we do well and do it more often and do it more consistent.
I know you guys have, with the 3 games in 11 days, there's been a lot of talk about that. I know you guys are focused on Miami first and foremost, but are there things you as a coach have to do to kind of work ahead, knowing that there's going to be such a tight crunch between those second and third games?
Yeah, most of that, truthfully, is handled in the off season leading up to the season. You know, when D'Amico's ironing out the schedule, and we know what dates the games are on. You know, he really hones in on, okay, this week we're going to treat like this week we're going to treat like this, because you got to make sure you get all your game plan and all your practice and everything that you need done in time for the game, and how you're going to approach those practices, so that by the time we get here, I mean, it really is like we're just looking at Miami, and then it's kind of Miami ends, and you look at the next one, you know, because the preparation has already laid out what you're going to do, and you know that it is a short window for 3 games, but that's why we dedicated the time we did before the season and how we were going to handle that.
Bobby, that success of the offensive line the last 2 games, if you can't put that same O-line out there, what are you looking for out of that left guard spot if Juice can't go, and what do you need particularly from that position on the offensive line?
Yeah, it's really no different no matter who's there. Like, we just have to get to a point where we execute consistently, you know, and that's where it was awesome. And Juice is probably where he's growing the most, going from center to guard and having to handle that's a big move. That's a lot of different things going on, and just honing in on his responsibility, what he needed to do and how to do it, and to do it well enough. Showed on tape, and whoever it is for us all the way across the front 5, like that's our big emphasis. Like, let's go out, let's execute, let's play the kind of football we know we can play.
Bobby, a couple more. Bobby, I've heard you say it, I've heard D'Amico say it, I've even heard CJ say it. Talk about December football. What does that actually mean?
The reality of the NFL, you know, kind of the way we would see it is a lot of the season is set up where you're growing to the end. You know, you want to be playing your best football at the end of the year, rolling into December and beyond, and that's really what you continue to emphasize. Once you get to this part of the season, it's usually what makes or breaks a season. You know, it's where you find ways to win and you scrap it out and you get to keep playing, or you don't quite finish some of the games, and then unfortunately it inevitably comes to an end. So that's really all we mean when we say December football. Like, it's just a heightened awareness of what we got to do and how on it we have to be, because at the end of the day, all that really matters is every week we try to walk away with a W.
Last year, Jonathan and Sarge.
You know, obviously you all could potentially get Kenyon back. You know, some of his teammates see it as an opportunity for him to kind of prove people who doubted him wrong. How do you see this potential opportunity for Kenyon?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing for him is he's got to get healthy, you know, and I know he's working really hard to do that. It's been a tough stretch. With what he's had to deal with injury-wise, really all the way back to college. You know, I know it's been something that he's been working on. He's been fighting, and that's really the first step for him. Like, let's make sure we're getting healthy. We're feeling like we're 100% to go play and let it rip. And then same as I already mentioned for the rest of the O-line, like, continue to build consistency and execution, which he's had bright spots of. He's shown that through the course of the year, but like everyone on our team and on our offense, you know, there's been highs and there's been lows as we go through that. So this is just the constant build.
Bobby, there has been some criticism about the offense as far as, you know, social media, radio, and things like that. But what does it mean when you have a lot of these players on the offensive side of the ball who are top in the statistical categories and, you know, Pro Bowl consideration? Is that what the positives that you tell us week to week that we need to focus on?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we kind of hone in on ourselves really all the way across the board. Like, I couldn't tell you anything else that's going on outside of here. I can tell you that I think we have some really, really good players that are on the Houston Texans, and at times, again, like for us, we've had some highs, we've had some lows, but when we play really well, we think we play really, really good offensive football. And I think we've shown that through the course of the year, and just hammering out that consistency has been what we've been working on, what we've been trying to get better at. aiming towards December and now to the end of the season, so we could play our best ball as often as possible, because when we play good ball, I mean, we feel like we can play with anybody. Thanks.
All right, well, who's up? It's open floor.
Yeah, guys, not.
I know. What we got? Sarge, you want to hit it?
Yeah.
All right.
We've talked to D'Amico. He said on numerous occasions about having the eye discipline. What does that mean as far as for the safeties?
Sure.
And to be able to keep everything in front of when you're going up against wide receivers like Waddle and Tyreek Hill?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing with that starts pre-snap. I mean, obviously, like probably one of the best teams in the league with all the motions and how to utilize it, and it's going to be multiple shifts, combinations, shift one way, motion back, and really, I think probably Mike does a really good job of just it's pointed, it's intentional in terms of how they're trying to get you to react or what you're trying to get you to see. So, for us to keep clean eyes and if you're supposed to be on a man, if you're a man-to-man, your eyes are staying here, and not let a motion distract you or shift or moving you over. Or, it's really at all levels, not just for the safeties, obviously. So I think it's really going to be pre-snap importance of like not letting all the shifts, nudges, jets kind of get you off of where your eyes are supposed to be and what your responsibility is.
You're going to be without Aziz for the next 3 games.
Yeah.
How much of him being out early in the season due to injury and those other guys stepping up is going to play a vital part in these next 3 games?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, like that room's been a little bit of a rotation since we've been in camp. We talked about it, I feel, too. So, all those guys between Nev and Henry and Jake and hopefully Christian kind of working back to it to where he can play some for us. I mean, all those guys have had that work. So hopefully we feel good about that kind of combination of guys filling in there.
How have you seen Kamari and Kalen lean on each other? Obviously, you all have had an eye on them early on. How have you seen them lean on each other?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like a lot. Like they're like inseparable. It's crazy, man. Like that's pretty funny to watch them. They're literally joined at the hip, and I think that's been cool for those guys. Obviously, in similar, I don't say roles, but world of like a rookie coming in and obviously playing and fitting into that room together. And I think the friendship and the relationship that they formed, they become really close really quickly, and I think that helps. Like obviously going through a different experience in the NFL and the ups and downs and the transitions, and I think they spend a lot of time together off the field, and that always helps them kind of translate on the field when they're communicating with each other and stuff. So no, I think that that's a pretty tight bond those guys have for sure.
In such a short amount of time, I know the mantra is kind of one game at a time.
Sure.
With Miami and Kansas City and Baltimore going up against him, what's the message in the locker room against these really tough offenses right now?
Yeah, I mean, it is one game at a time. That's the message. I mean, I can't even do it. Like I have a hard time trying to filter out. I mean, we're going to attack each game as it comes, and each game's a unique situation. Each offense is different. So you start worrying about what Baltimore's doing 2 weeks from now. Like that's not going to help us this week. So the messaging is, as it always is like we got to focus on a good offense that's coming into town this weekend in Miami and get that one first before we worry about anything else. So I think our sort of the other people in the building in terms of like some of the strength staff and the training room in terms of like how they're helping those guys prepare their bodies for sort of this little stretch run here. But our focus is on Miami and how we can beat those guys. That's going to take all of it for sure.
Strengths of Eric Murray's game, and if you guys need to use him a little bit more, how do you sort of set him up for success?
Yeah, he's played a lot of football for us this year. I think probably it's going to probably maybe sound, I don't know. His versatility is probably his strength. Like I think he's really good at a lot of things. You know what I mean? He's played some coverage for us, and matching up. He's matched up receivers. He's matched up backs. He's matched up tight ends. He's kind of played back for us a little bit. He's played down the box. Like he's played some robber sort of situations for us. So he's a veteran guy. He's played a lot of football. I just think his versatility and his sort of veteranness, his calmness, and all the stuff that's going on, like because we can move him around and you can plug him in some different spots, it kind of helps take the burden off some of the other guys when we're moving pieces around. So I think his sort of versatility is really what his calling card's been for us this year. Anything we've asked him to do, he's stepped up and done and played different roles for us. So I think he's going to continue to do that for us.
With a team like Miami with so much speed,
Mm-hmm.
and so many different skill positions, I guess D'Amico was talking about limiting the explosives. Is that one of the big focuses for the team?
Yeah, always is. Obviously, like heightened when you play in a team that has explosive playmakers, and I think we've seen like even not just the receivers, like the tight end's been a big weapon for him, and obviously the back's an explosive player. I think some of that for us is going to come down to tackling as well, like just with the ball out so quick, and they do a good job of just the offense is designed to get the ball in the playmaker's hands in space. So we have to sort of restrict that space, whether it's after catches and tackling or just being sticky in coverage. But it's not. I mean, they do push the ball down the field some, but I think some of the explosives are coming a lot with just like those underneath catches, and obviously you get the ball in Hill's hands or Itchen's hands or all those guys, they can do some damage. So I think for us it's going to be restricting space and trying to take away, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get the ball in space out of Tua's hands, in their playmakers' hands, and let the speed show up. So whether it's tracking and tackling or just closing or being tighter in coverage when we need to be, like those are the things that we have to do to limit some of those explosives.
Unfortunately, before the Titans game, we talked about the hypothetical of Petrie not being on the field.
Sure.
And you talked about how if he's not on the field, maybe you have to change some things up. Did you experience that all in the Jaguars game? Did you see anything?
We were fortunate, that kind of Jimmy slid in a little bit and played some for us, and we moved some other guys around. Miles played a little bit for us in some spots, and even Kamari to some extent. So I think again, it's just. I feel like I've said this for 2 years now. Like our job is to take who's available to us and put those guys in the best position to help us win and for them to be successful. So obviously, if with Jalen going through what he's going through right now, like we're gonna have to move some bodies around, and that's kind of what we go through the week and say, hey, this week it's gonna be different week to week, right? Obviously, the matchups are different. They've got some different playmakers than maybe Jacksonville did or whoever. So I think. That's our challenge week to week, is how are we going to deploy our players best. But obviously losing a great player like Jalen is a blow, but we feel confident in the guys that we can step up and make some plays. Oh, sure, let's do that. She's good.
Matt, we hadn't gotten a chance to speak with you after the Jacksonville game and what transpired as far as the Aziz hit on Trevor Lawrence, and then there was a lot of talk about that.
Sure is.
About being able to protect the quarterback, but also from the defensive standpoint, being able to know, what to do in that situation. Since that, have you talked or reiterated to your defensive players about you have to be mindful of those type of things?
Yeah, we always coach through the rules and what we're doing, and look, we all know there's heightened awareness in terms of protecting quarterbacks in this league. I mean, we feel the same way about our quarterback, obviously. So I don't think we coach that any differently. Like sometimes those are bang plays, and but we do know that the onus is on the defense to have some awareness in some of those situations. So I don't think that we've changed how we coach or anything like that, and just continue to keep coaching and what the expectations are from the league and in those situations when quarterbacks are going down, like. It's a heavier burden on the defense to try to protect them. Or whether, we can argue whether that's right or wrong, or how that plays out. But I wouldn't say we've changed our coaching. We just keep highlighting it, and coaching's a living, breathing thing, right? It evolves every year, every week to week. Like things come up, different situations come up, and I think we just continue to try to grow and expand our players' knowledge and hope that translates on the field.
Smith feels like he's playing some of the best football of his career
Sure.
at this point. They got all those guys that on the outside, they move guys around. He's kind of a part of it now.
He is.
What are you kind of seeing from him and how they use him and maybe some of the ways?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, another again, I think like I said earlier, they play in space, right? They just get you opened up a lot. They play in space, and even a lot of teams against us, no team wants our D-line to wreck the game. A lot of teams will protect up to do that. Like these guys, it's not that they don't care about that, but they're just like the ball's out so quick. Like that's how they're trying to neutralize our rush. And so, but now you're dedicating resources to 10 to 17, and all of a sudden now I think John has really done a good job of just being another factor in some of those spaces. If you're committing too many resources to the outside part of the field or whatever, and he's a good enough athlete. He always has been that. They interchange those positions, so he'll line up at number one and put Tyreek in the slot. And now how are you handling those sort of things? So again, I think this offense does a really good job of spacing you out and trying to find the matchups in the best way they can. He's another he's another good athlete that can create matchup problems for you. So, we're going to be up to the task, but it's a challenge for us to match up with all those guys and keep them from, again, like I said, getting into open space. And if those guys are running free, any of them, the receivers, the back, the tight end, if those guys are running free and loose and we're not where we need to be or close or not closing space, like, it can be a long day for us. So he's definitely another factor in that. Cool. Sure, guys.
He's real dynamic, Malik Washington. So excited though to be home and face a really the perimeters and the returners are they're different from Miami. So you can look at Sharon Neal and Campbell on the other side, 22, and our ability to generate our own return game versus the Dolphins. It's going to be begin with trying to neutralize those two. So Saron Neal, if you guys had followed Buffalo, he's doing the same thing. He's leading special teams unit for them in tackles, but not everybody gets opportunities at shot tackles in the punt game. Jake Bailey hanging it for him, and then Saron, like, they've both gotten those opportunities. So that's it's dangerous, and you got to stop that right away. So having great physicality and hand use at the line of scrimmage versus those two guys. One of the better kickers in the league, Sanders, he's having an outstanding year, and then just the way they're playing with consistency has showed up. So, nothing I would say is at this point of the year, your teams have really showed, their style of play, who kind of is at the point of attack for them. Duke Riley, Tyndall, 41, Channing Tyndall, and then it's been unique to see River Craycraft come over from San Francisco there. Now he's one of their starting personal protectors if he's in there, so hats off to them. But you see consistency rise at the most important levels of the game. Did everybody watch their Jets game? It was like they showed up in the fourth quarter at the end of the game when it mattered the most. Multiple explosive returns. Malik Washington he's a legitimate problem, becoming one of the better returners in the league after taking over when Braxton Berrios got hurt versus Indianapolis. So the ability to get a guy up to speed and then start making plays in December football, that's what good special teams units do. So hats off to Miami, and we really got to make sure that we're prepared. And at this point of the season, like, we all live for December football, and man, this is exciting to be in it. So hopefully we're where we want to be, and hopefully we can take a big step this weekend. Take your questions.
How beneficial is it to have a player like Dameon Pierce on the return team?
Yeah, strong runner. You guys have seen it, different style of runners across the league. Some teams are using smaller returners and, Downs in Indianapolis, and then you see Doolin. Okay, that's a different style of returner. Duvernay, and then, you might see Parker Washington, So this week in Miami, it might be A-Chain, it might be Mostert, it might be I know Eskridge was hurt last week, but, for us having Sims, Dell, Woods, Dare, Dameon, everybody kind of has a little different run style. Dameon is a hard one-on-one. If you don't put a body on him as a tackler, like, he can break a tackle. So it's been really beneficial. Those returns that he's broken, if you watch them, they're not clean. It's his extra effort. So there's been one return that was clean, and everything else has been, his break the tackle to go from good to great. So excited where he is at.
Along those same lines, Frank. Oh, go ahead.
I'll come back to you. Go ahead.
Along those same lines, Robert Woods, it's not everybody that you see at that point in his career with that resume who's back there doing that. How did that kind of happen? And he's had some nice moments. What's he doing well in that role?
Yeah, he's leading, and he's leading by example. Coach, what do you need me to do? And that's not to me. That's from D'Amico on his way down to me. Like, what do the Texans need to win this down on Sunday? Like, it doesn't matter. I mean, look at the game-winning run to ice the game versus Jacksonville. Did you guys see who was at the point of the attack? Sticking his face in there was Robert Woods. So we know how the Buffalo game ended. It doesn't get started. It doesn't get set up without his return, where he's just giving us a chance at a long field goal at the very end of the game. So consistency, willing to do whenever is asked, taking reps on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and for a guy who's an older player, like, not worried about, I'm not sore, I'm not ready to go today. He's doing his extra warm-up, whatever it is, to get ready to run on special teams. The Texans are benefiting from that. Really proud and thankful for him. So, awesome.
You've talked in the past about players stepping up on special teams. You have Aziz out and Jalen's gone down. Just kind of how have you seen the team react with guys that, are normally primarily special teamers, but now they're getting more reps on defense? Just how have you seen the team kind of step up and rally about special teams that way?
Yeah, and man, 17 games, when does it go to 18? Who knows? It is a long, physical football season. So guys are going to go down. You have to be built with flexibility as a roster. You've got to have great understanding of it's a 70-man roster. But when it's our time to step up, underwritten storyline in New England, D'Angelo Ross playing corner. Neville playing versus Green Bay and having a good game. Like, that's going to happen. All right, so what does that do? Troy Harrison's played for us. Irv Smith's played for us in the kicking game. Dylan Horton's played on our punt team. Tegan Quatoriano has played. Tegan became one of our best blockers on punt and kick return, which nobody probably watches. Right, and I would doubt that Teagan was going to be one of our best blockers on punt return holdup, but he was snatching people and using his size and commanding their release. So, like, that versatility has served us well. It's given us a chance as a roster to go and compete, and it's also boosts, it's an entry-level job for a lot of young guys and special teams, but it boosts their confidence when they're going out and cutting it loose, and then the team's having a successful return. So, you watch guys that are core players, Delshawn, Jake, Nev, but you realize like Miles Bryant out there springing us free on the tank return last game versus Jacksonville. So like that stuff is super important for us to be able to have, 70 man and who needs a next guy's in, and we're still picking up and going forward. So yeah, I can't thank those guys enough for being ready to do that at a drop of a hat, and we need to be that way on Sunday versus Dolphins.
Not to take the conversation away from special teams, but you brought up New England. Big news of yesterday of Bill going to North Carolina. Having spent time there earlier in your career, kind of what was your reaction to that, and how do you feel he's going to do in college?
Yeah, I mean, he's the greatest coach ever in the history of football, but I'll give a Belichickian answer. Man, we're just worried about the Dolphins right now. I'm good. Go ahead.
So what did the Frank Ross bye week look like?
Oh, I am a new man. I'm containing myself with intentionality right now because I got all the energy in the world. Like, I feel like a new man. I actually, we did a staycation. We did get one night, did our Christmas shopping, and I slept to a point that I actually was sore from laying down for too long. That's a good thing. So we're ready to roll this week. Yeah, I appreciate the question. Hope you guys had a good time off too. All right, see you guys. Thanks.